Sorry, everyone. We're just waiting for a quorum of the board. All right, I see our select board chair has joined us. I'm gonna hit record. Brooke, I can't understand you.
You can't hear me?
Now I can. You were gone.
Okay, hopefully we don't.
Everyone except Dawn.
Give me 1 second. Okay. I will call to order the April 14th licensing and petitions meeting for the Select Board of Nantucket. We don't have any announcements. And we'll start with departmental requests and seasonal liquor licenses. Amy?
Good morning. Thank you very much. Yes, we're going to just do one last review of the seasonal liquor licenses. As we mentioned last month, we might come back if there were any updates. They seasonals, again, that are open April 1st to January 15th, have the month of March to renew or non-renew. So we did have one update. Quickly, the non-renewals we discussed last time, Foggy Bottom Kitchen LLC, DBA Foggy Nantucket did a non-renewal. We had done a transfer of location that did not work out for them, so we non-renewed that license, which will be important for an upcoming hearing. Also, the Berkeley Place Restaurant Group that somehow was still showing up, so we did a non-renewal of that as well. That was a temporary spot. And then what has been added, we've been communicating was Nantucket AC LLC, DBA Nantucket at 21 South Water Street. We'll be doing a non-renewal for this year. They may pop back up in another location. We discussed it, and this is not a quota license, so it's better to just apply for a new license should that come up in the next year or so. So I would just ask for a vote on the final list of non-renewals for 2025. Being Foggy Bottom Kitchen, Berkeley Place Restaurant Limited Partnership, and Nantucket AC LLC.
Any questions or a motion from the board?
It's Matt. I'll move approval.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, second from Malcolm. By roll call, Matt?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay.
Right.
And that's it, right, Amy? Or do we
Yes.
need to? Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
we already did the population in an earlier meeting, so we're good for renewals. Thank you.
Okay, All right, terrific. Next up, Culture and Tourism, report on event planning permitting for the 2025 season. Deanna, are you going to take this, or Shanta, who's going to lead us on this?
If I may just real quickly,
Sure.
put this on the agenda and then leave it to Dina and Chantal is, we've been discussing this. As you know, they have taken over, thankfully, the event permitting. And what we thought is I included their general event spreadsheet with the thinking that we wanted to introduce more the entirety of what is permitted. Licensing boards really do need to be signing off on all the liquor permits that we issue on a one-day basis. In addition to, generally, we've done the public assemblies and big things, but in this forum, we want to make sure that everything is added and you can see the entirety of what is being proposed for them as they go through. And as we were going back and forth this morning too, as we get out of the renewal season for the businesses, we'll be moving into that in May and throughout the summer as these things come up, pop up sometimes last minute. So wanted to leave that there. I don't think we're going to be tackling anything big. I think we wanted to possibly discuss, some of the local nonprofits that are doing public assemblies each year. As long as they stay within a certain parameters, we can kind of move on with that and not do public hearings every year, things like that, and how best to do it. So I will leave it to Chantal and Dina to bring up anything else they would like to, and then obviously the board, any questions you have on the process. Thank you.
Good morning, Dina here.
Hi, Dina.
Hi. So as Amy said, the spreadsheet that was included shows our most up-to-date events as of Thursday. So far, we've received 96 event applications, as you can see by the very long and very hard to read spreadsheet. It's a lot, but 55 of those have been from WineFest. So some of the events that we're doing are very large and have a lot of moving parts. And of those 96 events, 18 have been fully permitted thus far. And then the process thus far, since transferring over to our department, has been a little bit amended, but that's for streamlining and better communication across departments. So once people submit an application, it goes to review directly to me. I send them a checklist with any additional items that they may need, depending on the nature of their event and what they've put down in their application. Once I receive these documents, I then put it to review. Either I review it myself if it's like a one-day pouring permit, and communicate with the group and Amy as well that it is all done, or we bring it to a larger review with public safety or even others such as the health department for a larger review. And then I reach back out to the applicant when that is all complete with an invoice, and then it goes to permitting. Things have been really great in terms of cross-departmental collaboration. We've been having a lot of meetings with the fire department, the police department, Amy, health, etc., and things have been great, but I'll pass it over to Chantal for some more reporting.
Thank you, Dina. Good morning, everyone. Yes, so as Dina mentioned, the department meetings that we have once a month to go over these large events have been well received. The one we had last week, at the end, fire and police both were really thrilled that we could all get in one room and go over these events. Given the fact that we have a lot more events being proposed each year, and the events that we are used to seem to be getting bigger and bigger, they kind of just need a little bit more scrutiny to ensure that we are making the best decision for the island as a whole, and especially safety-wise, given some events that happened last year. So, with that being said, Daffodil Festival is the next big one. I'm sure you guys are all poised and ready for that at the end of this month. They got all of their permitting stuff into us. Really by the end of February, we had several meetings. We actually have a meeting scheduled with them for later this week to go over some last minute things to make sure that we are like fully ready, safety wise for the community for that large festival. And then the next big one that we're tackling is Wine Festival. Like Dina said, we have 96 applications so far, and 55 of them are Wine Festival. And to be completely honest, only one of them is completed. And when I say completed, the applicant has submitted every single piece that we need for that permitting process. So the other 54 events that are happening, which unfortunately these pieces that we need really fall on health. We're still waiting on 54 events to be permitted. They are now officially 30 days late on getting their health permit stuff in. Today's the deadline for them to get us all of the supplemental information that we need to permit the event. And they have 14 days before their event, so they have until the 1st of May to get in their plus permit for that tent. We did send a checklist when we had our initial. I know Amy's office met with them back in November. We had our first contact with them for our February meeting. We also had another meeting in March. We have another meeting scheduled for this month as well, just to kind of help them move along, because it's at the point where it's looking a little rough, because they're really behind the 8 ball on this. We've sent a number of checklists to just kind of remind them of what we need. We also went and broke out all 55 events recently and literally made a checklist of every single item that they need for all 55 events. That took us about 3 days to do.
Mhm.
Dina and I working on that collectively and reaching out to the different departments to make sure that they agreed with what was on there to get that over to them. And we're waiting. Admittedly, we got them that last list last week just to kind of help nudge them along so that nothing gets missed. So that's really the big one that's coming up. That's taking a huge chunk of our time right now. And
Okay, I have some hands up from the board. Matt?
Well, I'll talk, I've got just a general, just a general question. Do we track how many events, year to year? And because Chantal's saying it's increasing and they're bigger. And so that's one thing I'd like to know is did Wine Fest, are they asking for more this year? Are all of them, are all of it more? Is Wine Fest more? And then you made a comment about safety and what happened last year. What is that about? And I have some other policy comments, but I'll wait till other people have spoken.
Okay, so do you guys want to respond to Matt to start out?
yes. So we are getting more event requests overall, not just with Wine Festival, just overall. The list keeps growing. Amy and Marina kept a very detailed list that we mirrored this year. We have access to the list going back to 2022. So we can definitely see the increase. As far as Wine Festival, if they're asking for more events this year versus past years, I can't 100% speak to that right now, but I can get the answer to that for you. I've just been keeping track of this year to see how many they have, but I can go through the permit requests from previous years to find out how many events there were and definitely let you know that. And as far as issues that happened before, we did have, it's pretty big. But at the I believe it was a triathlon last year, we unfortunately had a gentleman that passed away. And it's just working more closely with the triathlon. We actually have a meeting with them scheduled for this month, working more closely with the triathlon and public safety to go over every aspect of the plan to make sure that we can mitigate those issues going forward. And then, obviously, when you have those bigger festivals, we've had issues with people on the side of the street at 2 o'clock in the morning. So what do we do to make sure that how do we tighten it up a little bit more to make sure that those participating in the events are safe, and those, the rest of the community who choose to come and live here can be safe as well.
Amy, did you want to add something?
Yes, thank you. And yes, we do have, as Shanta said, the stats going back many years since we started this, I think in 2015. So we certainly can get you more detailed on that. On the wine festival, I'd like to say, just to update you on the ABCC forms, ABCC did approve them, but came back and said that they require proof and a report from the organization showing that over 51% is of the profits are given to charitable uh, endeavors. So we'll be getting that report from them. That's come down from the state saying they will not sign off on these anymore unless they see that report as well. So, and then, yeah, just to reiterate what Chantal said is they've done a great job at bringing everyone together in person with public safety to really kind of drill down as to where the limits are and where these events need to come in. So they've done a great job on that. So, but we do have all that information for you as well.
Okay, Tom?
Hi, Shanta, Dina. Thank you for looking out for these and scrutinizing these applications for public safety and the like. And I guess my point would be, would it be beneficial to the office to move up some of these deadlines for full submittal? Because if you're dealing with thereabouts 100 applications and one organization, or it doesn't matter, but one organization in this case is 55 permits, and that you have to deal with some of them at the last minute, that means that you probably will have to shelve other bandwidth that you need in the office for other things. So I was just thinking for future, maybe this is a placeholder for a future discussion, but maybe some of these submission deadlines could be pushed up a bit so your office has more time to evaluate these in a more fulsome way.
Chantal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, Tom. We agree with you. Obviously, this is our first year taking this on, and we're learning quite a bit and trying to figure out ways that we can fine tune it a little bit more. But one of the things that we've discussed is reviewing the events policy, and for larger events like this, requiring that applications are fully submitted significantly earlier, as well as reviewing the fees and just the processes overall. We've been playing around with getting access to an app that, to a software that allows applicants to be able to submit online. They can't submit the completed application until they've uploaded all of the required documents. And then it just kind of streamlines it a little bit more. It also cuts down on the back and forth between our office, the police department, fire department, and the applicant, because they can go in and track year over year their applications that they've submitted. We can communicate with each other directly through that software as well. And there are things that we've done that we started tracking how much time we've spent on each application as well, because I'm a numbers person. I want to know what this is costing the town for us to be spending time on these, and what the software costs, to see if it makes sense to switch over to that. So it should be interesting when we all connect at the end of the season to discuss it. But yeah, we're working on that, and we'll present our proposal to you all once we have it sorted.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Matt?
Yeah, just I'd like to see the wine festival report, Amy, when you get it. That would be great. I think, and Chantal, you're exactly on the right path about seeing how long it takes, et cetera. When you said, oh, it took us 3 days to put a list together for this one event, that's their job, And if they're not doing it, then we should be charging them for that at minimum, and charging enough. The other thing is, I think what I'm seeing, I have the bread index. You probably all read about it. I'm seeing that we're busier than ever, and Chantal has experienced it a long time ago. It's even crazier now. So I think that we're even busier at peak. We built so much capacity. Houses that people own and don't rent, houses that rent, et cetera. That it used to be people would have to book in February to come to the island and now they can book a week before, a few days before. And so we are getting inundated, 4th of July, last week of July, 4th week or 10 days, the last week of July, first 2 or 3 weeks of August are busier than ever. People don't have to spread out anymore. And if all these events are going to follow the people and squeeze into this, I don't know where we're going to fit everybody. And so that's why I originally was asking how many in total do we have, et cetera, as a policy. We're not doing it today, but as a policy, we should be thinking, should this be able to expand, unlimited? Or should we be saying some of these have to go into the shoulders and some, and the other part is, so does everything have to revolve here around alcohol? Like I like seeing all the ones that don't have alcohol. If you don't have alcohol, you're less likely to have someone passed out by the side of the road. So that's a good thing. And I think, or sleeping in my front yard, which happens every other 4th of July. And so I think that, and I think that we should, as a policy, we should be looking at, do we want to encourage people into the shoulders as opposed to peak summer? And a lot of these events, it's not for the town's benefit. Sure, we get business, et cetera, but some of these are businesses now. And so, I think, we should really be looking and saying, are we taking all our resources and et cetera for someone to run a business on the beach or a business, here and there or whatever. So I think there's some issues that I'm glad we're tracking it better. I'm glad you guys are thinking about it the way you are. But I think we as a town and as a board really need to dig in and, and more is more, and more money and more events is not always better. So we've got to be thinking about that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'm 55 locations for Winefest. Just, it feels like a lot. I realize some of them might be an hour here, an hour there, or, they're not, all day events in all 55 situations. But it very much concerns me that you're chasing down information from an applicant that just shouldn't be necessary. A deadline's a deadline. If a business doesn't make a deadline, I realized their situation this year was a little unique in that they were in litigation and their timeline got delayed. But I'd love to know, has that been a problem in the past that had nothing to do with that unique situation? Okay, Amy's got 2 thumbs up. So we can consider as a board a policy of non-compliance with the permitting process as, part of our decision making. That the imposition of extra work on staff for one event versus another, can we incorporate something like that in our decision making around permitting events? And we should, so anyway, that's just what's running through my head. So really appreciate the update. Having it all aggregated in one place was startling, honestly, a little bit. So Chantal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we wanted to make sure you could really see just the vastness of this, because it is a lot. And we hear all the time that there are more and more events, but to see it on a list was startling to us as we were working on the list as well. One of the things that we've been talking about in our department events meeting when we review these large applications is the amount of resources that each event needs on the day of, not just leading up to it, but the actual day of. And one of the things that comes up a lot is that a lot of these events, there are multiple events on the same day, and, police and fire only have so many officers, and of course, we also need them. If you dial 911 and you need a police officer to show up, you expect them to show up. Same thing, you need an ambulance, you expect them to show up as well. It can't be that all the ambulances are at XYZ location for an event. So that's been coming up a lot, listening to them work out how they can stretch the staff to be able to meet the needs as well. So that's also part of what we're reviewing when we have these meetings too. So I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
Yeah. And maybe it's a policy of no more than, I don't know, spreading events around so they're not all at the same time, as Matt indicated. So really appreciate the update, and looking forward to sort of some summary with some historic data just so we can see trends, and then policy change recommendations that we can consider would be really helpful. Okay, we good on that topic? Okay, on to the next one, which is the rental car medallion waiting list policy and process. Amy?
Yay. Okay. So, well, let me grab my right thing here. So as we discussed back in January, oh, here it is. As we discussed back in January, I had the board look at different options when we have surplus medallions, whether we do a lottery or waiting list. And we came upon waiting list. It's something we already do in the taxi tour charter limo space. So thought it best as a business that we would include it as the same. So currently, I know we're going back and forth on policy bylaws and that's aside, that's over here. What we're looking at is we definitely have 8 surplus medallions that came from an agency no longer in business for the past, I think they've been out for 8 years now. So we have these 8 surplus medallions and we want to kind of launch this process. I put together a couple of things here. So we, like I mentioned, have the taxi tour charter limo wait list that takes place in May. So I'm trying to attach this as well to the month of May so that it all kind of flows together. And basically it's a similar situation, whereas a person would apply to be on the waiting list, be an actual application for a rental car business. I included the renewal application that those that have an agency license fill out. So you fill that out just as you would for a taxi. It's $25 application fee, and then it's $10 per year to remain on the list. So very similar process as we're getting close to May. That's why we're proposing this now. Also, I think I included there as well a couple of other items that rental car companies have to deal with. I did one. You'll see the list that I have that I've spoken of before. When we were full there since 2021, I created a list online for folks to request to be notified when we did have surplus medallions. I included the full list, obviously, on the first one there that establishes when I set that list up. And then what we're proposing is that once we announce this process, that folks on that list, should they wish to apply to be on this wait list or wish to apply to be chosen for these surplus medallions, that they would remain whatever order they're already in, since they have requested this in the past. So I thought that was fair. So I said, if they're third on the list now and no one above them applies, they'll be up top. So that's kind of how that would work, and other folks would come in. Couple things that we recommend there is that I had also included 2 things that happen with a rental car agency once you get medallions is, the tax man cometh. I put the form there that they fill out for rental days that they pay. Obviously it's minimal tax, but they have to do things like that. The beach stickers for vehicles that have medallion or any rental vehicle that is registered to a rental company pays $200 rather than the $50 fee, since it's rented out to multiple people. And what I also suggest here is, if you'll see in the list, it asks if they're looking to set up a rental car agency. I know we're still going back and forth on this online stuff, but how we see it, and then I'll just leave it here. How we see it is that we're looking for people on this list that the vehicles that have the medallion are 100% rental vehicles, not someone's personal car, that this is a business that they are starting, whether they're starting it or they already have a business. We have current agencies on that list as well. So the question there would be, do we continue to include them, or they are allowed to transfer once they have an agency license? And then secondly, classifying this as vehicles that are purely rental vehicles, not someone's personal vehicles. So that is the recommendation, and something that we would set up in May. And then again, once the month of May is over, we take a look at renewals, what we have left, and then we go through the list. The last thing we recommend is determining where we start on the number of medallions that we give to people on the list. We're recommending somewhere 2 to 4, depending on what we have. For someone starting it, if they only took 1, obviously it would go to the next to the list. So those are the 3 things we're kind of looking at. So I'll leave it there and see what questions you have.
Questions from the board? Matt?
Yeah. First off, I think, 25 and 10 may be too cheap. Maybe we don't have to change it this year, but I know, 25, 30 years ago when I was fundraising for, my alma maters a little bit, they didn't make money at $25. They were losing money. And so, we got to think that. That's number one. So how many times can someone be on the list right now? Can they be on multiple times or just once?
So similar to how we do this now with the others, they can be on another time if they wish to have it. We have some people on the list multiple times. They'd have to pay for as individual things, but that's something to think about. Similar to the taxi list, if we have two spaces come up and the two people are related, husband, wife, brother, sister, whatever it is, that second person can't get one that year. They skip to the next year to try to make it so people are not stacking the list. So I would want to run it in a similar fashion. But that is the question. In this bylaw, those that have an agency license and have medallions are allowed to transfer between them, right? And they have done so. And we have some not being used. Well, those are open to transfer between these agencies. So that's a question. Is if they want to have that and they want to be on the list, then does that get eliminated? So that part is not something we have involved in these other type of licenses. So I question that, whether current agencies should be on this list or should the surplus be for new folks coming into it.
Matt?
Right. Yeah, and I would argue that the surplus should be for new folks.
Yeah.
And here, what is the rationale between calling them 100% rental businesses? Then it's not their sharing car. What if someone is, only shares their car in the summer, or has two or three cars and just shares one in the summer, drives it in the winter? Are we gonna look the other way, or are we going to enforce that?
Yeah. If I may, so again, and that's the argument we've had. Do we have the ability to enforce it? That's a tough one. Those that want to start an agency, we've had several things as far as like golf cart people want to rent, road worthy golf carts and different types of things. If we get into it where we're issuing it to, I don't want to go down this online road again, but we're issuing it to one or two of those people, does that make all the 200 others illegal? And without getting into that conversation, we wanted to try to keep it while we're still working that out in the business realm, in the every other agency that we deal with that has medallions has to pay this tax, right, on the rental days. Whether someone's using it outside of that, can we force it? Not really. But there are some people out there generally wanting to establish more of a business and getting off the ground. So, but
And you all know my feeling. I feel very strongly that though, renting one of them is, and I also feel very strongly that we do not have the roads, do not have the infrastructure and the capacity to have unlimited vehicles here on island at peak. We will make this so miserable. We'll make a lot of roads, Old South Road, Surfside and going into town and everything else will turn into, if we go down this path and let people run, individual businesses with a husband with one and the wife with one and the family having a couple more, I could rent four. I have 12 employees. I could buy 12 more cars and have 12. If we do this, I mean, we would be, we would be fouling our own nest as a community. And so I think that I've written this 3 summers in a row, warning about this, and here we are still. I think that this is, however we do it, we need to find a way to make it very clear the number is the number. Thank you.
Before I comment, Malcolm or Tom?
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I would say I agree that this should mirror the taxi, limo, etc. waiting list as much as possible in general. I think I agree with Matt that it should be for new applicants. That to me seems like given the spirit and tenor and tone of our previous conversations at regular SB open session, of course, open session, that would fall in line with a policy decision that we would make.
Madam Chair,
Mhm.
yeah, I think my two colleagues have said it all. I'm in agreement with them. I just ditto whatever they said. I agree.
So I would say that we definitely have got to figure out a policy around the online, the Turo online platforms. I think what we're trying to address here, and I think Amy's done a good job of sort of boxing this out, because we have 8 medallions available, that we cannot solve issuing medallions for all the Turos. We're just not there yet. I'm not saying we don't need to get there as soon as possible. We did put a warrant article on. It's been gotten a negative recommendation, told us to go back and refine it some more. The finance committee did. But in this case, I agree, new vendors only. But this is designed for people who want to be in the rental car business. And there are rules around that, right, Amy? Like explain, remind us what a rental car agency's requirements are, so that it's clear to people, to us, and to people maybe who will watch this. What does it mean if we issue one of these medallions? What does the then holder of that medallion, what are the requirements they have to fulfill as a rental car agency?
Right. So I can speak to a couple things. One, I want to make clear that it would be a full application that they'd have to fill out, determine whether sole proprietorship, LLC, incorporated, of that sort, just like the businesses do now. And those applications would be something that we review, police review, and of course, select board will be able to review the application, what the business plan is and such. So it'd be similar to that. As far as, I don't know all of the requirements, but I'll say that I included some paperwork there to show that there are tax requirements that they have, because being a business and such, that they have a lot of tax and state requirements too. It gets into different commercial insurance policies and things for the use of that vehicle being solely for rental. That gets in insurance is probably one of the biggest things that they have to deal with. And also to note that these companies that are agencies, they are generally not purchasing, the high ticket prices you would if you walk into a dealership. They have fleets that they can go through and purchase vehicles. So there's advantages in that sense as well, but there's also the tax implications. So I'm trying to approach it the same way that we would approach it for a business license for these folks, which is the agency, the license really is a business license. And they are including that information, and that will be submitted to the town and will be classified as such. So that's kind of why I included some of that paperwork. And then again, the identification that beach permits and other things like that will be charged differently. But then setting up as an agency in a legal capacity probably has some other benefits for them as well. So it would be something that you'd be able to review. We'd be able to review the applications and understand the business plan and where the location of the vehicles are and the setup and things of that sort. So that's kind of how we're approaching it, if that makes sense.
Matt?
Yeah, I'm sort of looking at it slightly differently. I thought that this list was going to be a way for the people who are doing it now with 1 or 2 cars to be, to apply and become legal. And I want to make sure that we aren't putting such a moat, such a barrier to entry because of an onerous application process and the IRS and everything else. Because what that will do is just force more people to go, well, I'm not going to bother doing that. I'm just doing Turo because the town is saying they're not going to enforce it anyway. They've said they can't, and I know they don't want to, so I'm just going to do it anyway. I think that we want them applying. I think we want every one of those people to be on this list right now. We want, if there's 200 of them, we want to know there's 200. If there's 300, we want to know there's 300. I don't think we want to be setting 2 different sort of skews of them. I don't think, hey, who wants to be a real business with multiple, and and then, hey, who wants to just do a couple? Like, I think we should be, I'm thinking of it as like everyone has to apply.
Malcolm?
Well, we're getting we're getting back to discussions we've had numerous times. I mean, I can see the problem here is we have a mixed use list. We have those that are truly rental car companies in the definition of a company, and then mixed with, individuals that are renting their car. I just think that's going to be a mess, an enforceable mess. I'm sorry I can't be more helpful, but I just see us going, but we're repeating our conversations. We've never really solved this issue.
Right. So to me, this is a stopgap measure to deal with the 8 medallions that are available while we work through a longer term policy that addresses peer-to-peer car sharing online. I'd love to address it all today, but we're not going to do that. So I think this is the opportunity to see how it goes, see who applies, and get those 8 medallions issued before the summer season, which is an important policy priority for the board for a variety of reasons. So,
Madam Chair, may I just follow up?
sure.
Yeah, but at some point we really have to address this. I have a sense we're just kicking it again down the road. The warrant article may or may not pass, and that will be again controversial. At some point, we really need to sit down and resolve this, or we're going to have these conversations forever.
Matt, Amy, did you want to add something before I go to Matt?
Yeah, go to Amy first.
Thank you. Yeah, just a couple things. And based on our last conversation, we were talking about events and resources and things of that sort. What I'm trying to do is it's confusing. This whole thing is not made sense to a lot of us. What I'm trying to do is operate the way we operate, which is we manage and operate and issue business licenses, correct? And to say that we don't have the resources to take on 300 more people coming in for this waiting list in May, to see what we go through, and I have Alex over here who goes through it every day, until we have a system to take this in, to take an additional 300 people in, if we're going to start doing that and managing individuals rather than Turo as an agency or someone as an agency, we need additional resources to do so. I just don't see it doing well. So that's why I'm trying to direct it into what we do every day, which is dealing with businesses and getting them licensed and going through the proper channels of such, and not the individuals that we help do. We permit residential parking or beach. That's individuals. This for us is in our wheelhouse of businesses. So that's how we're approaching it until such time we have the resources to either deal with 200 people or this additional.
Tom?
Oh, yeah, I agree with you, Madam Chair, that what's in our packet to discuss on these 8, the waiting list is what it is. And the other issues are for another time. And I think what Amy's done here is given us an on-ramp to evaluating those on the waiting list on a case-by-case basis for their own business case based on all the criteria that Amy left out before. So I guess there's like the 2 to 4 conversation and a couple other little things. But to me, that makes a lot of sense, because trying to cobble it together today, which is an agenda item anyway, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense, because then it totally takes away from I think what Amy's trying to do with the waiting list, which is what we've been talking about doing.
Okay. So Matt, your hand is still up. Did you want to say one thing before I kind of summarize where we're at?
I want to encourage everybody that wants a license, including Turo and and any other online peer-to-peer, I want to see them all putting their name on the list. And I don't think that, and so, you know, and if we let this go another year or two, we'll probably have 200 or 300 more that we're worried about. I don't think that we, you know, by asking everyone to sign up, we're not asking them to fill out applications. We're asking them to put their name on the list. So so that when town meeting does pass a 200, we have 200 more to give out, and that's it. You know, and if we don't, we're going to pass 200 and need 400, and then we'll pass 400 and need 800, you know, or we'll need golf carts. And the idea that these are not businesses is not true. It's not, they are businesses, you know, and it's sort of like house sharing, that's a business. You're providing a service to someone. Car sharing, you're running a business, you know. So, you know, I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
sandwich share or loaf bread sandwich sharing. I'm not sharing my sandwiches and tell the IRS I don't owe any money because I'm sharing my sandwiches and I shouldn't be inspected and I shouldn't have, you know, the health inspections and everything else because I'm sandwich sharing, you know, and I don't need a license at my house to run a restaurant because I'm sandwich sharing. People would say that that's ridiculous. It's nonsensical, but that's kind of what we're doing. So anyway,
Okay. Well, so decision before us today, Amy, is to approve this method of going through the list and asking people to confirm their spot on the list by applying again or newly applying. So we're creating a list. Okay. So I think so there's that. And then we have to decide what the maximum number of medallions we would give to someone who rises to the top of the list, right? Of the 8 that are available, right?
We can, you know, I'm thinking through this. I mean, we can certainly establish a, you know, minimum of 2, but if presented with a plan that 4 might be better to start it. I mean, you could certainly, it's at your discretion, I believe, as we do it. But with a small amount, I figured doing a minimum of 2. If circumstances allow for more, that's your discretion.
Yeah. Okay. So thoughts on let's do we want to take a motion on this procedure at this point, and then we can talk about the number as a second discussion and a second decision to make.
Madam Chair, I don't know if the board would entertain, but I like what Amy just said. To me, that sounds reasonable because then it's at our discretion when the license comes up. So if the board is ready, I would make a motion that we approve what's in the laid out in the packet that Amy has laid out for the 8 waitlist rental medallions with a minimum of 2 and leeway to 4 if the licensing board, meaning us, decides that business case makes sense for all the reasons and criteria that Amy laid out, that a business in this business is required to have and to follow.
Okay. Okay, so that's a motion from Tom. Do I have a second?
yeah, I'll second it.
Okay. Okay. So just discussion wise, I'm a little nervous about leaving discretion on the number of medallions. There could be a number of people on the waiting list, and I think it will slow down the process if we have to come back and evaluate a business application and decide whether it's 2 or 4. I personally would be more comfortable with 2, and then if we are able to reclaim unused medallions, then we can maybe change that policy in the future. But with only 8 now, if you give 4 to someone, you're definitely limiting the number of people who will come off the wait list or have accessibility to those medallions, in my opinion. So that's kind of why I'm hesitant. But we could leave it at 2 to 4, and then we could all just agree that we're going to issue 2. So it doesn't require us to issue 4. So we could leave Tom's motion whole.
Madam Chair, I think what you said about that this is only 8 on the waiting list is a good point, and I'm willing to amend my motion to two for this. And like you said, if there gets to be a lot more on the waiting list, we can revise at a later date. If that makes, Amy, does that work for your office?
Yes, yes, and I was thinking too, it's probably going to be an annual discussion anyway after renewals are done and we take a review. So yes, absolutely. And the goal here is to get this established and set up and go. We'll meet again and discuss the outcome of that.
Okay, Malcolm?
Yeah, just for discussion, I will support this, but as I said before, I think this is easy for us to do now, but we really have to sit down and solve this problem and not continue to talk about it. This is easy for us to do this, but we have a hard road to really fix the problem.
Okay, thanks. Matt, are you okay with that amended motion?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm gonna vote against it because I don't think that we're encouraging the peer-to-peer to apply, and I feel like we're opening agencies, which the whole goal was not to encourage more agencies. So we wanted it limited. So I'm gonna vote against it for those reasons. But I'm fine with it as my motion.
Okay, all right. So I'm gonna take a vote by roll call. Tom?
Aye.
Matt?
No.
Malcolm?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay. So I think there's some tweaks that can be done for sure. We need to get this, we need to get something going, have some experience to base an amendment on, in my opinion. So this is a reasonable place to start. Okay. Thank you, Amy. All right. Next up is sidewalk dining permit conditions and agreements for 2025.
Thank you. So I included for you proposal I put together and reviewed with the town and others about sidewalk dining. As you know, this is obviously something we started in the pandemic, and we started a permit program in 2023 for restaurants that had done this during the pandemic and wanted to continue. So what I want to do is just review a couple things that have come out in these discussions and update the agreement and conditions and process here. Make sure y'all are in agreement if there's anything you've seen or want to discuss. So we can, next page, Erica. Thank you. So these are kind of some of the questions that we talked about, what needed to be solved in this area. How are they managing trash? How do we create a more consistent look with furniture, stations, and lighting? Pedestrian passage is a huge discussion and is what has come up. As you know, we get into scope creep with some of these things. Once it starts, it just kind of gets bigger and bigger. We've seen bigger umbrellas and stuff. So that's been the main discussion point, is pedestrian passage and accessibility. Also, we brought in this discussion to talk about other impacts to sidewalks that we've been seeing as occurring outside of these dining areas. We're not just focusing just on this, but we've had, I get calls about host stands being out in the furniture, or sidewalks, different furniture, statues, things that are popping up. Some look good, but we really need to kind of bring those into the discussion as well, because they impact the look and accessibility of downtown. And then the discussion is what are other ways to expand or support this, as it's been very successful and well received. I think it brings life to downtown. So how do we support it in the future with planning and different efforts that might help? They're obviously in the sidewalk business right now and making these better places. We want to kind of work with them on that. So next, please. Conditions. So as you know, in the past years, we've created conditions. They have to sign off on these conditions, and there's agreements, insurance, and stuff like that before the permit is issued. Obviously, this is public property. We have liability issues and others. So couple things, and this picture here is Nantucket. So as we remember now from the earlier hearing, that those tables will not be there. So that opens up that space as well. We have the hours of operations, 8 a.m., 10 p.m., except for Lemon Press, that is relegated to dinner only because they have such a large line and such during the day. Entertainment, we have no allowances for extra music on the sidewalk. Seating areas are just really for sit-down dining. I've added some in red here, ADA accessibility. So planning, as I have added at the end of this, had recommended, they'd like to have 8-foot clearance horizontally and vertically up. Not possible in most areas. We basically have maybe 4 to 5 foot on the side streets and per ADA, and up 6 feet on Main Street there where it's a little bit better. What I'd like to do is really probably we're going to have to eliminate some umbrellas. Backyard barbecue and other areas have added umbrellas outside of the tables, which further reduces those things. So we'd like to put in some restrictions on that anything that overtakes pedestrian passage, that the space is limited to 4 tops in most areas. Or some areas, Club Car only does 2 tops, which is helpful. So we just really need to put more restrictions in that maintains that accessibility. Next, the everything liability and all of that stays the same. Next slide, please. Appearance is a big thing. I think what we like to do is some places like Rose and Crown there, because they do have a night crowd and lines, do remove their tables and such so that they have space there. But others have left theirs out, which we've allowed because space is difficult, obviously storage space, but we believe chairs and such really should be removed. Working with them on that, but we need to have a little bit better appearance out there and not be so messy or tables kind of moving around. So that's recommended. And being much tighter on this is any changes to furniture and accessories must be reviewed and approved by the town. Also adding, because some of those umbrellas were added, we had only mentioned we didn't want logos on those umbrellas, but when they got added with sandbags and other things outside those tables, it became very congested. So we need to be more specific there. We also are adding inspections. This are reviewed with other towns. It really is, and we know this too, it's discretion of the building commissioner as it relates to accessibility. Barnstable says he goes out with someone from their building department or his designee to review these spaces and do inspections. Where there's accessibility areas and problems, they're going to need to either remove whatever the obstruction is or amend their space. So we want to make sure that we add that as compliance checks, not just about the alcohol. Accessibility is a very important matter we need to deal with. So that needs to be added. And again, we added under signage and advertising restrictions that no enhancement may block pedestrian passage. So although we did encourage, as we went through this, they have some planters or whatever in that area, we really need to start looking at the space as it is right now. So we're going to request that we add that as well. Can we flip to the next page, please? This is just the fees that we have established based on the number of tables and seats. Obviously, the larger number they have, the higher the cost. I did say to all these folks that if we really pulled back on this, we would recommend a reduction in fees. Obviously, if they're having less seatings, it's going to impact them too as well. But I don't think we've done that here. In most cases, we're looking to see how we can come to some compromise here. Next slide. This was just a basic analysis giving you all the locations that we have and the type generally that we had. We had 8 in 2024. I think we're going to be, like I said, removing Nantucket. Dunes turned over to Billy's on Broad, which we approved in a similar fashion. I put some issues along the side there, but for the basic places down on Broad, we have some areas there that are very, South Water, that are tight there. Backyard barbecue, I've already spoken with them that those umbrellas, unless they can put something off the building, those need to come out, because not only if they are outside the tables, but if they go beyond when they're put up, and that includes Rose and Crown, we're going to have to look at that, because especially there with taxis and such, very congested area, as is Club Car. They have small 2 tops, so we may take a rope away or just have it smaller so that it's not in line with the signage there. So I think Lemon Press again, crowded area. We're gonna have to look at some things that were added out there as well. So Ethos, we had some issues with management of alcohol service that I saw at Stroll. So we're gonna have to kind of deal with that, and we'll talk about some of those violations as well. But that was an area of some tables left on sidewalk. We need to have that cleaner. So those are just per location. Next slide, please. See what else I have. So just some photos of what we're looking at here. Rose and Crown, they've got their umbrellas up, but they're not on the outside of the table, so it's not as bad. And they have very active management of those tables. It works kind of well there because their doors open up, so not as a problem. Nantucket, actually not having those tables there will help that space. The noodles there, they, as long as they're two tops and kept over, they're okay. But again, we had a lot of folks leave stuff out this winter, which was not good. I've already told them that. Lights in the trees got to go away, stuff like that. Did not appreciate them being just kind of left all winter. So those are some of the other issues. Next slide. The Main Street area, again, club car, taking maybe that rope away, cleaning that up. Lemon Press left an umbrella all winter. We'll need to have that removed. And here, Backyard Barbecue, again, is what I'm talking about. You have the tables. Those umbrellas are huge. And then they're outside the table. And that's where everyone comes in for the boat. So it's just a tough area. I've already told them we need to kind of keep that. Those umbrellas probably have to go. They're too big unless they cut them in half and put them inside. So that is what we're discussing right there. Next slide. In Broad Street's a little bit easier. This is a picture from the pandemic. There's not going to be two sides. And again, those umbrellas are huge. You see the host stand out on the side. That stuff and the umbrellas they put over on the sidewalk, that cuts people's, tall person's going to run right into that. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about, is that the sidewalk needs to be kept clear. So we're looking to talk to everybody about that one with the host stand and tables only on one side of the street, not two. Again, that was the height of the pandemic. That's why that's that way. Ethos there, just asking them to possibly remove those seats at night, clean that area up a little bit. But otherwise, that sidewalk is obviously very clear as we look at it there. Next slide. And then planning proposal, I included this. It's part of the discussion. It's nothing obviously planned right now. This is something that Mike Burns shared with us about looking at other communities, what they do, saying that ideally, in the future, if we look to keep this, going downtown, is looking for more pedestrian spaces or ability to do something like this to help, pedestrian way keep going and still have that dining. So I think everyone loves the dining, and it really kind of adds some life to downtown. So we like to see that. So it's part of the discussion for long-term solution that we can talk about as we go. Next slide. Was that the last? So action items. Again, this is kind of what we've been working on, is soliciting feedback with the restaurants and others on the benefits of the program, which they all like it. It definitely adds to that. Rose and Crown especially said it really kind of changed their business model for that. So that's been a huge plus for them. Style guidance we've talked about, but making sure that we all communicate on what's out there. So again, what I discussed is consider extending this policy and agreement into wider policy or regulations to include all uses of public sidewalks. So we'll be talking with folks about that at our seasonal meeting and such. Just to communicate more and to keep less stuff out of the sidewalks. And I believe that was it. So basically what I'm asking for is any questions from you, any feedback on the program. If you agree with the comments and the update with some of these conditions that we can start issuing for the season. So I'll leave it. You.
Okay. Questions from the board, comments?
Madam Chair.
Tom?
Amy, I think that was really, really good. The only thing I had heard, it just anecdotally, was the backyard barbecue with the umbrellas, because of when the High Line lets out, and families are moving together and et cetera. You well covered that. I think this is all good and a perfect example of kind of lessons learned and feedback, and then put into presentation in a thoughtful way of trying to have this evolve in the best way possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt?
Yeah, I'm with Tom. I think there's some changes. I think your changes of having two tops instead of four tops in areas I think is good. The how do I like if Dune is kept in line like Ethos and kept in that in between the trees and doesn't spill out to the sidewalk, I'm fine with that. If people are not complying, there should be one or two or three strikes, and we should just get rid of it. And if they change hands, maybe we get rid of it. The public is not a lot of the public is not in favor of this. I like the look of it, and people like that, but a lot of people have talked to me and said it's ridiculous. They're blocking the sidewalk. We can't walk down. We have to get one in line, and we didn't buy the sidewalk. We didn't do a taking on the sidewalk to then have it turn into a restaurant. So those are the comments, some of the comments I hear. I like it, but I think we need to be tougher on it, which I think you are. The other thing we have to think about, there's a value. A parking space has a value. When we were strictly enforcing downtown parking 20 years ago, people were buying a parking space for the summer was like 10 to 15 grand. And because we were enforcing and not letting people roll their cars or sit all day. And it was like 10 or 15 grand where the Greenhound is now. There was a little parking area there people were paying. The value of a parking space now has got to be 20 to 30. So it really is. If you were buying your own space downtown Nantucket, or we were running a paid parking, we would generate a ton of money out of those spaces. And so, when we start pushing people into the road or talking about like, the picture in there had the car, like the sidewalk going out and around, are we going to build a side? That would be nuts. So I think we've got to, sort of reclaim it, do as much as we can, but reclaim it. The only other comment is historically, instead of umbrellas, awnings. If you look back in the old pictures, awnings hung off the front of all the Nantucket buildings. We should be encouraging them to do that again. It's tight, it's high, keeps the rain off, keeps the sun off, and it's in keeping. Blue and white awnings. I think that would make a lot more sense in cases where ideally they're up against a building.
Right.
But if we can't do that in some places, I get that. So there's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Okay. The backyard barbecue is my greatest concern. That is such a heavily trafficked area. It's where people are welcomed. And when they have to juggle their way around with suitcases and so forth, I would almost prefer to move them to Two Tops and get them closer to the building, and get rid of the umbrellas. And I think more inspections, more oversight, making sure that they're not encroaching beyond what permission has been granted, I think is really important. And I also think, storage of tables, yeah, it's difficult to have space for that. But if what we're asking is that the tables are gone, they need to be gone. They litter when they're not in use, they're just littering the sidewalk. It doesn't look good when there's just a bunch of tables on the sidewalk, in my opinion. So, if they don't have the capacity to store them according to what our expectations are, then maybe they shouldn't have them. That feels a little tough, but I think it's only fair to apply the expectations evenly across all of the different licenses. So, but I think you're headed in the right direction, Matt.
Yeah, only one other comment. The other thing is, and Amy mentioned this, the aisle widths and passage and stuff like that, that's not optional. And so I think that everyone has to be warned, that this, I'm in the midst of raising my handicap pad because it's sunk over the last 25 years and fixing that up to, I have to lift it and do this and that. Those things, if the building department comes or the handicap access board or somebody else comes, this isn't optional. So I think they should understand that this could change momentarily, that there will be an increase of eyeballs on it, and it could change because and it could change immediately, and you're done. So I think that's something that you should be relaying to them, Amy, because I think people get kind of used to what they get, and then so.
Yeah, we can't have a 4-foot sidewalk at a
Right.
major downtown. That to me is just too narrow.
Right.
So so I think, if it can't get at least to 5, with a 4-top, it needs to go to a 2-top. And I think that, yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think doing some measuring and following up and making sure as we renew these.
Yep.
Yeah. Malcolm?
Yes, I agree with all it said. I just want to compliment Amy. I thought that was a great assessment and presentation. Kind of
you.
asking those questions for 2 years. It's nice to have it all put together where I could see it. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you.
So Amy, do you have what you need? Consensus from the board that you're on the right track?
Absolutely.
Without
I
any
appreciate it. Yeah, it's sometimes hard to come down and say we can't do this, but yeah, no, I appreciate the support because I think we need to go there.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. All right. Consistency, I think, is
Yes.
important.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Amy. That was great.
Thank you.
All right. We are moving on to licensing and petitions license holder requests. The first is a request for approval of an extended entertainment. No, this one has been removed, right?
Correct.
Been
Yep.
removed.
Sorry.
There
There was a change to the agenda.
Yep.
Okay, so that's off. So request for approval of change of officers for Sankaty Head Beach Club. And this is an annual because they turn over their leadership, right, in the
Correct.
organization. Yeah.
That's
Yes.
right.
Thank
Yeah.
you for Mr. Dale for sitting through this.
Yeah.
But yes,
Hey,
it is.
Kevin.
He did it.
Very
for-
informative.
Yes, yes. And this is for the beach club.
I'll
Oh,
move
I put
approval.
golf club in the executive summary. That's my error. It's the beach club, which is correct in the subject line, but I just saw that summary. But it is, the application is for the Sankaty Head Beach Club. It's their annual changing of officers. Yes. So
Okay.
we have what we need.
I'll move approval, Matt.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, we'll give it to Tom by roll call. Matt,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you, Kevin, for sitting through all that.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Okay.
I got my certificate, Kevin, so I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, next we're moving on to public hearings. I'm going to open the public hearing to consider the application for a new seasonal wine and malt beverages package store license for Nantucket Provisions, Inc., DBA Provisions, Elga Andriva, manager for the premises located at 3 Harbor Square. Amy? Matt? Hang on.
I am not, I am, these are good customers. I am out on this. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So lights out, Matt, and we'll do it. The 3 of us will consider this one. Okay, the public hearing is open. Amy, go ahead.
Great. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. So a couple of items here. This is a application, as we mentioned, for a new seasonal wine and malt beverages package store license for Provisions at Harbor Square. So this is a location that is a licensed common vicular, does takeout, and has seats for eating in their location for food and non-alcoholic beverages. They've been there, as we all know, for over 30 years. So it's not a location itself that has been previously licensed for the sale of alcoholic beverages. So a couple things before we get into our usual list of items is, as we know, this is a quota license. We have quotas on off-premise package store type licenses that are split into 2. Again, the annual quotas are beyond full for all alcoholic beverages and full for wine and malt beverages. That is done on the census every 10 years. So that is full. This is under the seasonal quotas, which is based on the vote that we take, which we took again this year. We've been keeping it at about 45,000, which is 1 per 5,000, which is the seasonal population as of July 10th every year. So that gives us 9 licenses. We had been full until we did the non-renewal this year of Foggy Bottom, which had, again, applied for a change of location just down Straightworth from this location to Snackle. They did that last year. It did not work out for them. They surrendered. So this is an application. That license did become available. on April 1st after the non-renewal. I mentioned, so it is available for application. I mentioned in the packet that we had been discussing this application with 2 applicants down in the same location. This is the one, both the same landlord. The landlord NAR did approve this application for their tenant there at this location. Very similar, a location that had been approved for Foggy DBA Snackle last year. So that's kind of the background there. We'll go specifically about this location again. The 5 tenants we go by. Appropriateness, as we mentioned, this building itself had not been approved for alcohol in the past, but again, it's in the middle of 3 others that are approved for on-premise consumption. There's no package store right there. Closest would be Fresh, about 300 to 400 feet on the other side of A&P Stop and Shop. Again, the number of existing dispensaries, again, this is the last one available in the package stores. Views of inhabitants, we did not receive any comments. We did do a butter notification there for Old North Wharf. Traffic, noise, and size, again, it's in the middle of a lot of licenses downtown and sort of operation. These owners and applicant have been at the facility and location since 2006. So long-term tenants there as well, and they have all worked in the industry, in the restaurant industry downtown. Again, let me just real quick under my notes. We went over that permission. So, yep. So, I will leave it there and see if you have any questions for the applicant or myself. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions, Tom or Malcolm?
Questions?
Okay.
I have no problems.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on the matter may raise their hand now. Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Okay, by roll call, Malcolm,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The public hearing is now closed. Motion on the matter?
Motion to approve, Madam Chair.
Tom?
Second.
Okay, by roll call, Malcolm,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. And for me, this is really just taking the Snackle one and moving it down the street. We already sort of
Right.
approved the general location. So
Yes.
yeah.
Good morning.
Thank
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Thanks for sitting through it all. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so next up is a public hearing to consider. I will open the public hearing to consider application for license transfer and management agreement for seasonal all alcoholic beverage hotel license from LH Manager Northeast. Oh my gosh, my mouth. DBA Beachside at Nantucket to 30 North Beach Street, LLC DBA Beachside at Nantucket. Samantha Ann Shaw, manager for premises located at 30 North Beach Street. Amy.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And just a note, Erica, I know the attorney we talked about earlier, he might have gone on the public link. I don't know if we see the name Dennis Quilty there, but if we need to ask him questions, I think he's out in the general universe and not in the participant universe, but we'll get there. So as you mentioned, this is a transfer. So just wanted to discuss both these. Oh, there he is. I see him. Okay. What this is, and then he can explain further. Both these applications, Beachside and then the next public hearing, Faraway, similar situation, and we've done this before, whereas this is both a transfer and a management agreement. These locations, again, and Dennis can go into this, is applying for, they're changing basically the company and those that are managing the establishment. I included for you, so it's not a change in ownership, but it's a management agreement for the license there at Beachside as well. So I went through and kind of included for you legal definitions where this restaurant, bar, or hotel holding a liquor license may seek to delegate their management responsibilities to another individual or entity through a contractual relationship known as a management or operating agreement, which we've seen with this company before. So it's an administrative transfer for them. It's not a transfer like we've seen with like Dune or something else where it's a new owner coming in as well. So it allows in the industry to allow the licensee to retain ultimate control of the enterprise, remains with the licensee. So those are those legal definitions there. Again, we're also seeing a change in the liquor license manager. That liquor license manager works for the LLC that will be on the license as well. So I will leave it to you if you have any specific questions about this agreement.
Okay, great. Any questions from the board? All quiet. Okay. If there aren't any questions or concerns, I will ask the public, would anyone like to speak on this matter? It is a public hearing. Okay, seeing none, a motion to close the public hearing?
Yep.
Matt?
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'm going to give it to Malcolm. Okay, by roll call, Matt,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay, the pleasure of the board on the matter, Matt?
Before we go, I just have a quick question. If they do this type of situation, Amy, how is the liability? Does it pass? Is the license holder still liable, and the new renter, the new assignee, is liable first, and the license owner second?
Dennis, want to
Yes,
answer
ma'am.
that?
Amy, thank you, by the way, for ginning it up like that. Thank you very much
Yeah.
for that assistance. I do just want to say quickly that Ricky Millington, who's the Director of Asset Management for both properties, is with us, as well as the two proposed managers of record, Nathan Parsons at the Faraway, Samantha Ann Shaw at the Beachside. The change here would be a new licensee entity and a new manager. So the responsibilities and liabilities transfer as well from the existing licensee to the new licensee, which are all related. I mean, the safety valve here is these are really the same people. It was a business reorganization. And I think what it does actually is give more control to the ownership entity, even though there is a management agreement. They are interwoven. But to technical answer your question is that the rights and responsibilities transfer along with the license. So liability, insurance, et cetera, all of that will fall upon the new licensee and the new manager, the new management entity, if approved.
Tom?
Madam Chair, through you to Amy. Amy, this has to be approved by ABCC as well, correct?
Absolutely. Just like any transfer, yes, it will. But just wanted to explain, it's not just someone wholly new coming in a sense, and that we have excellent communication with ownership, and that has not changed. It's the same people that I talked to. They've introduced me to one of the managers so far. So as far as I'm concerned, none of the conditions are changing. They just are looking for better active management of the properties. And I think that's what's happening. So as far as our sense is, nothing's really changing. There's improving some conditions. So, yep.
Okay. Any other questions from the board or a motion?
Yep. I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay, second from Malcolm. By roll call, Matt,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. That's unanimous. So I'm going to open the public hearing to consider application for license transfer and management agreement for annual all alcoholic beverages hotel license from LH Manager Northeast LLC, DBA Faraway Hotel, to 29 Center Street LLC, DBA Faraway Hotel, Nathan Parsons, manager for premises located at 29 Center Street. The public hearing is open. Amy,
Yep.
probably quick here. It's basically the same, different property, right?
Yes, Madam Chair. For the Faraway Hotel, I just need to make one note for the record that the public notice in these cases, since it's not a change of location, we didn't have to do a butter notification. I did have to do a public notice, which we did, but I used the 29 Center Street as the address instead of India Street. It does have the license address, but I blame them because they made named the LLC 29 Center Street, and I didn't look, but it is one of the addresses for the property. So legally, I just wanted to clear that up, that the public notice had the address of the premises at 29 Center Street. I don't think it'll be an issue. I'll tell the ABCC that, since we didn't have to do a butter notification, but just needed to point that out if it came up. But it is one of the addresses on that parcel. So just clearing that part up. Otherwise, same situation here, the same type of transfer, and the new manager being Nathan Parsons for this specific property.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
I'm just going to ask the public one more time if there's anyone. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak should raise their hand now. Okay, seeing none. Matt?
Move to close.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, Tom, by roll call, Matt,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Do I have a motion on the
So
matter?
move to approve.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, Malcolm, by roll call, Matt,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. That is approved. I will now open the public hearing to consider utility petition from Nantucket Electric Company, National Grid, Plan 307-56491 to install approximately 130 feet of 2 to 4 inch conduits from pole 1 on Cato Lane to existing pump station on Roberts Lane. Erica.
I am going to review this for you. So this is actually a town initiative. This is for the sewer pump station on Roberts Lane for an upgrade. So it's pretty straightforward. If you have any technical questions on the application, Aaron Bork from National Grid is available.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Okay, this is a public hearing. Anyone from the public wishing to speak can raise their digital hand. Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Tom. Roll call, Matt,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Malcolm.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The public hearing is now closed on the matter. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, by roll call, Matt,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So that is approved. Next up, public hearing to consider utility petition
And
from Verizon New England and Nantucket Electric Company, National Grid, Plan 1A 6BV1U to remove pole 6 and relocate pole 5-84 approximately 8 feet northeast from the current location on Newtown Road. Erica.
So this is another town initiative. This is related to the Newtown Road reconstruction project and the multi-use path that's being installed. One of the specific poles is planning to be removed. Another one is being moved back. The pole that's being moved back is a guy pole that helps. No, I'm sorry, it's a main pole, but there's a guy pole across the street on the corner of Lewis Court. So never mind about that. But if you have technical questions about this, Ross Billadu from Pike, who's Verizon's rep, is here.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. If anyone from the public wishes to speak, please raise your digital hand.
Oh, and
Okay.
I can note one more thing before you close the public hearing.
Yep.
We have been in constant contact with the owner. This is right in front of the Rising Tide preschool. And a family kind of owns this section of area of Newtown Road, and we've been in touch with them, and they're in agreement to do a license agreement and or easement with Verizon to move the pole onto private property, or the guy wire will have to go into private property. So.
Okay, all right. Thanks for that clarification, Erica. Okay, seeing no input from the public, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Okay, Malcolm, second.
second.
And Matt, by roll call, Malcolm,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The public hearing is now closed on the matter. A motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Okay, from Matt, by roll call, Tom,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Somebody left and you moved around and I lost Malcolm in my mind for a second.
Thanks,
Okay,
Sean, for staying on.
yes, thanks to everybody who came, in case we had questions. Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's Tom, Matt, Tom by roll call, Matt,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Erica and Amy, and in abstention, Chantal, Dina, and everyone on all matters today. Have a great day,
Right
everybody.
on.
Thank you.
See ya.
Okay, ciao.